Welcome to our yoga building blocks tutorial. Today we're going to do child's pose, Balasana. So there's a couple of different variations of Balasana. There's loads actually. So again, don't get dogmatic about what is and what isn't. Go on a little bit of a yogi adventure for yourself. Find out what works for your body. So the basic rule of thumb is to sit back on heels. So that's our starting space. And this is hero's pose, or Vajrasana is where we start. So the first variation that we've got on our child's pose today is just a lean forward. So we're keeping that hip to heel connection here in the back, and we're just dropping the body forward and then bringing the forehead down to the mat. So you can rest the hands along the side body here, and you can see this is creating quite a nice little curve in the spine. My thighs are actually pressing into my belly. So the nice thing about that little bit of a compression is that if you've got any bloating, that is a lovely compression posture for you. Maybe first thing in the morning when you're just waking up, it's a nice little compression posture to start your practice with. So my arms are by my side here. It's a lovely way to rest in between postures, to take a little bit of a time out, recalibrate, calm the central nervous system, allow a little bit of blood to come back to the brain in this little inversion. So also in our child's pose, if we're going to maintain this compression style posture, we can elongate a little bit, so not so much in a ball, but actually drawing the chest forward and then reaching the hands forward. So still my hips are connected in with my heels, but you can see I've lengthened through the back body a little bit more, and I can even use my hands here to press the heels back, and then as I draw my arms towards the midline, so they're still pressing into the earth but lengthening, but I'm actually drawing them back towards the midline. I'm spreading the shoulder blades and creating some length through the back body there. So in some practices, if we were to join the hands palms together and stretch forward here, we would have Ardha Kamasana, which is a half tortoise pose. So again, another little variation. So the next variation that we're going to look at is a wide-legged child's pose. So in this variation, we take the knees out to the side of the mat, and this will be entirely dependent on your flexibility in your hips and where you're working to. So sometimes in this particular posture, I've seen people, you only get to here, and that's perfectly fine. I don't want you to judge your achievements in yoga. I want you to just work with your own body and what is working for you in this process. And just note those little nuances, as we've talked about before, those little micro changes, maybe a little bit of extension in the back, a little bit of connection with the hips to the heels. Pantene said it won't happen overnight, but it will happen. No one woke up one day and was amazing at yoga. Everyone's amazing at yoga if they slow down and breathe and are mindful about everything that they do in their day, and that's why we practice the yoga. So don't get harsh on yourself here. Again, hips towards the heels. In this variation, I'm sitting quite low in the hips. So you can see I'm sitting back here as opposed to drawing up and away. So if we're in our yin practice, we would sit back here. I would curl the forehead, curl the chin towards the chest, tuck the forehead down, and very much rest that forehead, the hairline, onto the mat. Take the hands in front just to add a little bit of balance there. And rest. So alternatively, and you can stay there, and it's I find this posture enormously enjoyable. So the next variation, so that's with the forehead, the hairline onto the mat in that yin version, so it's very grounded and connected to the earth. The next version or variation, and you can stay in this posture, you can stay it for donkey's years, a couple of minutes, a couple of hours. Kids, you've seen babies fall asleep like this, that's what it's called, child's pose. Super nurturing. And one of the things about child's pose is that once we start to learn to take care of ourselves and nurture ourselves, we become more available to nurture and take care of other people in our lives. So there's no
love without self-care first. So in order to provide that, in order to provide care for others, you need to provide care for yourself first. So that's why we practice child's pose. Such a beautiful way to reconnect and ground down with the self. So the next variation, we're still in wide legged child's pose. We're going to come all the way down. This time I've actually hinged forward from the hips, so I'm poking my butt out towards the back wall. And this time I'm lowering the chest down to the mat. So my elbows are here, giving me a little bit of support on the way down, and eventually my nose and my forehead are going to come to rest. So in this variation, like being quite open in the hips here is allowing the chest to come down. So you can rest the chest here, you can bring the nose and the forehead down to the earth. Now, if you don't reach that far, you can have a block pop just here, rest the forehead. And that will work quite nicely. And it will take a little bit of a pressure off the neck, off the back, and just allow you to breathe and relax and surrender into the posture, which is a really beautiful few moments to take for yourself. So we can get a little bit more active in this posture as well. We're going to engage the core. So we talked about the perineum before. So we're drawing up here, pulling the tummy in towards the spine and squeezing into the perineum and lifting that up, like creating that strength in the core, lengthening through the back body and bringing the nose and the forehead down towards the mat. So I'm pressing my hands in here, I'm squeezing my arms towards the midline, drawing my shoulders away from my neck, and I'm really feeling some length happening through the back body here and some core strength happening. And I'm going to walk myself back up out of that posture. You can feel a whole lot of different things. Again, in our child's pose, it's about all those little micro adjustments that you make. One moment you might stretch the hands forward, the next moment you're drawing the hips back with that breath. So the inhale finds you stretching forward, the exhale finds you drawing back into the hips, and then you find the chest surrendering, and then you want to draw back into the core here, squeeze up and lift into the perineum. Maybe you're even in Balasana where you've got the knees together. You're actually squeezing the inner thighs together and rounding down over the top. And then you might take that full surrender, which actually finds you relaxing and having a few moments of self-care. So again, there's a whole lot of different processes, different things, different aspects to look at, little micro adjustments for you to take during the pose. So don't think that there's one way of doing something that's right or wrong. I am going to just turn around for a moment. Try not to cross the feet like this, try and keep them together. And we're actually going to, if you're sitting in Balasana, try and squeeze the heels together so that you've got that lovely symmetrical balance. So we're from the front, we're pressing the shins into the earth, and we've got that lovely symmetry happening, and we can sit back into that posture. And we want to be able to breathe quite comfortably in the posture. So if you find that you've got a shortness of breath, don't lengthen the arms so much. If you find you're really struggling somewhere, figure out what that struggle is and allow yourself that moment to surrender. Sometimes we battle so hard in a posture to get to the end result, we actually forget the process, which is coming back into the breath and taking those little micro adjustments, the unfolding of the origami, to get where we want to go, because it's the journey, it's about going there that's going to make the change. The end posture is the result of all of those little micro changes that we make, and that's what we take from the mat when we go out into our lives, and that's the journey and why we do the yoga. And then we have the coffee, and then we have the friends. Go forth, my friends, and enjoy building your yoga practice today.